Caitlin, thanks for the introduction. The joke, all right, and it's not a joke, is that it's a cyclone state. We have beaten the Iowa Hawkeyes for the first time in recent history in volleyball, in football, in our men's basketball team is ranked number 4 in the nation, undefeated, and our women are undefeated and ranked 10th. Wrestling's ranked 3rd, so it's a great time to be a Cyclone. With that, let's get started. Just 22 slides. I'm not going to bore you with my PowerPoint slides, but I'm going to stop intentionally 3 times. Once after we talk about the objectives, what the projection is for cash prices for 25 and 26 crops and acres. I'll stop. Let's talk about prices. Let's talk about where the numbers came from. Then I'll take off on ARC PLC and the government farm programs. And yes, I will be talking about the Farmer Bridge Assistance Program. We'll know more next week when we know what those prices per acre are. And then I'll stop and field questions, and then I'll head down the road to crop insurance. So let's get started. Talk about what we know from USDA, primarily from WASD and the Economic Research Service. They just released data on December 4th and December 9th, so this is pretty current. And then we'll talk about what is going on. My gosh, FSA is going to be really busy. They've got a disaster program that's still out there, still got 10 billion left they'd like to put into your account. But ABBA really changed everything. That's the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And not only did it change your tax rates, all right, it increased your ability to keep your own money. And I'm going to talk about ARC PLC and what that support looks like and what it might look like for changes regarding the 25-26 crop, and then even maybe base acres, but I don't think base acres are the big question. And then for those of you that haven't realized it, crop insurance is rocking. It just turned 90 degrees. And if you haven't been with your agent, you might want to schedule early January. Going on with higher subsidies and higher coverage levels. So with that, I'm just going to highlight, what do we know? Well, as of December 9th, WASD, we do know that ending stocks are still above 2 billion. That needs to be adjusted just a little bit, but I think that's probably in the neighborhood of 2069, but it's 2 billion. We've got an issue. We've got too many bushels looking for a home. And come next August, that's how many bushels are going to be left. And some of it's going to be in your bins because this is a pretty significant ending stock number. And then fast forward, ERS came out on December 9th. I swagged into what will the ending stock number be. It'll be lower, price will be higher. Don't hold your breath, 420. So we're going to trigger PLC for the 25 and 26 crop. We're going to trigger large ARC county payments for 25 and 26 crop. And again, I'm not negative. I'm a realist, is that we've got to work through all of these bushels. Soybeans are worse if you really think about it. Now, USDA, WASD increased the price on the 14th of November, and I think they're too high, to be quite honest. Look at the futures market. We've lost $1.15 in the last month. And next year, we're going to increase acres. And though ending stocks aren't going to change much, that price is going to be around 1030. So again, I'm not saying that I know these are the cash prices. These are weighted average. These are MYAs. These are the ones that determine ARC and PLC payments. But margins are going to be tight. No doubt about it. Is when we summarize, we're not going back, to 21 and 22 types of prices in corn or soybeans. And these are projections, which are wild ass guesses. There's no survey data for the 26 crop. Farmers haven't contributed to any of this, but we've got to work through a lot of bushels. And the fact is that we're likely going to decrease corn acres. This is Economic Research Service. We'll see these numbers again the last week of February at the USDA Ag Outlook Conference. March 31st, we'll see the prospective report. June 30th, we'll see the planted acreage report. But these aren't set in stone, all right? Is fewer corn acres. But we planted the largest U.S. corn acreage since 2012. And we harvested the largest U.S. corn acreage, 90 million acres in history this last fall. So you said, well, where are those acres that are going to get cut from 98.3? They're going to beans. And if you haven't figured that out, it's happening. And we're going to struggle. I mean, I was in Western Illinois a month ago presenting for Farm Bureau and Macomb and Galesburg and up north in Oregon. And I talked about this, is that you got to be prepared that soybeans could stay under pressure unless we can get weather problems, and we need them in South America, and we need them next week. Wheat acres are actually going down slightly, okay? And cotton's not making money. So we're not going to see a lot of cotton acres. We'll stabilize the CRP acres. They're not changing much, and we're not going to see a lot of our productive ground go into CRP. So let's stop. Caitlin, monitor, if you would, the question box. Do you have questions on prices? Do you have questions on acres? Do you have any just general questions? I'm not negative. I'm positive. Net farm income going up in 25, going up in 26. And you say, how? Well, livestock, very profitable, especially cattle. And the fact is, as the government payments, we're going to see more government money flowing towards you in the next 12 months than you've probably seen since 86, 87, 88. There's a lot of government money that's coming. And so I'm not negative. I'm, again, a realist. Anything, Caitlin?
Nothing yet, but we'll keep keeping an eye on it and encourage everyone to put questions in if they've got them as we cover topics along the way.
Yeah, again, those are anonymous. So, you know, Caitlin doesn't know who you are or where you are or anything like that. And I like these questions. I just came off the road. I've been to South Dakota, been to Northwest Iowa. So I am used to fielding these questions. Let's move on. All right. We're going to call this, let's call this stage 2. What will the returns be? Well, I use FarmDoc. All right. They're number one. Nobody does what FarmDoc does, but they haven't updated these numbers. They made some adjustments this week. But if you look at, I'm going to use Central Illinois. I know that's where we're headquartered. And I'm going to use high productive ground. And I know not everybody at Farm Credit Illinois is using high productivity. Go to FarmDoc, use low productivity. But the point that I want to make, all right, is that these numbers are changing even before FarmDoc got them changed. And it shows that for the 25 crop, P is projected, wild ass gas, is low prices, all right, good yields. But what you start to see is what is going to change for 26. The projections are that yields are going to stay relatively high. Price is going to increase 20 cents. That's an Illinois number. All right. It's not the national number that's used for ARC and PLC. All right. But what changes is ARC PLC. Suddenly, out of the blue is an ARC PLC payment. It's for the 25 crop, payable in 26. And again, the reason that we don't get those for a year is because we need the final county yields for ARC County, and we really need the final marketing year average price. We don't get final yields till the middle of June of 26 for the 25 crop, and we don't get the marketing year average price until late September for the 25-26 marketing year. Now, while everybody's talking about costs are going up, they're going up less than 2%, according to the University of Illinois. All right. And cash rent might soften. And so the losses aren't as great for the 26 crop as they were for the 25 crop. And you said, what's the big difference? ARC PLC. And if you go to FarmDoc today, you'll notice that on Tuesday, they added, all right, to this same data, they added another payment, and it's called ad hoc, or today we're going to call it FBA, Farmer Bridge Assistance. And they're using $38 per acre. Now, their projection at FarmDoc, all right, and we'll find out next year or next week whether they're right, around $46 an acre for corn-based acres, or excuse me, corn planted acres, and $25 for beans. So that blend is roughly $36. And I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to show a slide and show me the money. Beans, less loss in 25. And I think this is the theme, especially in Illinois, the #1 soybean producing state in the nation. Iowa's #1 in corn, and you'll never catch us. We plant 3 million more acres than you do, and we plant more corn on corn because we don't ship our corn out of here. We've got 44 ethanol plants, and we've got livestock, the largest hog herd in the nation, and we're #1 in eggs. And so there's all sorts of reasons that Iowa doesn't ship corn. But for 26, beans suddenly become positive. And I think that's why you're going to see bean acres. You know, I traveled western and northern Illinois, and I saw less tillage. I saw less anhydrous marks. And so I think we're going to see those bean acres. And the wetter the spring, the bigger the problems you've got. So you're going to see my marketing plan, and I'd already get started. You know, I got started a month ago pricing beans. I'm not waiting, you know, for South American weather problems, and I'm sure not waiting for China to do what they say they're going to do. So I really think we won't know what these acres are going to be until you talk to your seed salesperson in January. And I think then it'll start to become evident is that farmers aren't buying quite as much seed corn, and the seed corn they bought is probably traded, probably to resist southern rust or tar spot. And so farmers might not have been as aggressive in buying ahead. So with that, you say, well, how am I going to make any money? Well, this is where I turn into Jerry Maguire. Show me the money, Jerry. Show me the money. You've got to control the crop controllables. Focus on what you can control. I turn off talk radio. I listen to our local radio stations, and I listen to the marketing stations and AgriTalk. I'll be on AgriTalk right after the first of the year. And so I contend that you participating in this webinar, all right, should consider, #1, protect your working capital. This is not the year to run out of working capital. Current assets minus current liabilities. This gives you that flexibility. And I would guess that a lot of you have missed the November rally. And so you're still waiting for the market to rally. Well, it did, all right, for 3 years in a row. It rallied in the fall and then set back in the middle of the winter. And stay focused on cash flow and timing. I think this is really key. I think a lot of farmers are waiting until after the first of the year to sell, and I'm not in that camp. You know, the best basis of the year for corn and beans is probably coming at you. 4 days over Christmas, 4 days over New Year's. I'm not saying that's the best futures price at all. All right, we've set beans back $1.10, $1.15 a bushel on the January contract. We filled the gap this week, and we still can't hold bean prices because there's nothing. You know, it looks like China maybe have bought about half of the 12 million metric ton, and there's no threatening weather in South America. And so maybe you grab the basis and deliver the bushels and stay long futures, especially corn futures that I think will be well supported well into late winter and spring. 3 and 4, know your cost of production. That's where you start. I mean, there's really no excuse. You're pulling all your records together to do tax planning right now. This is when you'd pull that data out specific for the 25 crop and calculate your break evens. You know your yields, you turn your yield and production evidence into your crop insurance agent as soon as you were done with harvest. I think we've got to monitor our family living expenses. They probably got out of whack after the record net farm income in 21 and 22, and again, record prices. And so maybe we've got to make some adjustments, and maybe we don't spend the type of money that we have as we did just a few years ago. Consider diversifying your income. You know, most of my money is in investments that I made through retirement and SEPs and 403Bs, and I'm really diverse. I mean, I know I can make 12 or 13% in the equities, but the fact is that there's a lot of other places that I invest. I just put money in the market today. All right. And so I don't wait in one time a year. And then maybe you've got to, you know, secure adequate loan repayment capacity. This is a big issue. I did bank meetings last week, and this is a big concern of a lot of banks. Is they used to get paid in December, and now almost a third of all of the crop inputs aren't financed by farm credit or the banks. They're financed by Farm Service, they're financed by the seed dealer, they're financed by the fertilizer dealer, and underlying a lot of these companies, all right, they're not loaning you the money. Two big companies are loaning money for crop inputs, and it has increased rapidly. And those two big companies are called Rabobank, all right, Netherlands, and John Deere Financial Services. And most of those loans have due dates of December 1st or December 5th. And yet, who has security interest? Probably the banks and farm credit. They have the filing, all right, for all your chattels. And so they've been waiting patiently for you to pay down your loans. And I really think that's going to be a challenge this winter. And then lastly, controlling the controllables, you got to manage crop revenue. That's why you use crop revenue insurance. And you need to consider improving your market price risk. The 25 crop peaked in June of 24 and rallied in February of 25, and that was it. It rallied a little bit, all right, after harvest. And beans, the high before the rally in November was in February. February gave us our winter highs last year for corn and beans, new crop. And so I think that message is that, you know, I think farmers are pretty good at managing risk. They just can't manage uncertainty. And that's literally what happened, you know, with this tariff issue. And this tariff issue is somewhat muted, except China doesn't like us. And so China said they were going to do something, and they haven't done it. And so get used to that, is we do not want to be dependent upon China. So here comes Jerry Maguire, all right. The Farm Service Agency is waiting for you. They've got $10 billion. It's burning a hole in their pocket, and they're waiting for you to email them and say, hey, I want to apply for the SDRP. And I'm just going to be brief, okay? If you hadn't heard about this program, it's been around, all right, for 7 months. And they initially had 21 billion, and they still got 10. There's a stage 1, all right, and most of that was going for those that didn't have crop insurance or they had NAP coverage. And a lot of that money went to the Southeast, especially where they had in 23 and 24 hurricanes. Now, here's where you step in. It's the 18th day of December. Had you considered applying? It's a one-page form. It's just through the FSA, you just apply the form. They've got access to all of these other information. And I've got farmers in Iowa that are triggering disaster payments. They're not large, few counties in Northwest Iowa who had problems in too wet, 23, and flooding in 24. You've got till April 30th. So here's my line. Some people on this webinar will be planting corn and beans on April 30th. Some will still be at the FSA office. Is get ahead of the crowd heading to FSA. I mean, it's going to look like a convenience store by the middle of February. It is get ahead of what's coming at you. You know there's a disaster program that FSA is taking an application. Pretty simple, all right? Just complete and submit. You can do it electronically. I was just talked to FSA yesterday. Most counties, all right, have the ability, all right, to do your own signature. And so that idea that I'm going to stand at the FSA office for 2 days, it doesn't cut it anymore, folks. We're working electronically. Disaster. Number 2, here comes ABBA. Here comes 53 billion over the next 10 years. This is more money than we've probably seen in any farm program since perhaps 1933. Been a little while. That's adjusted for inflation. And a lot of this money is going to ARC PLC and some to crop insurance. We've already seen the disaster assistance. And this isn't the Farm Bill, okay? This is Title I of the Farm Bill. In essence, we didn't get a new Farm Bill. ABBA changed Title I, commodity programs, and Title X, crop insurance. And it should be rocking your world. And I feel like this past July 4th, and you know, we already knew what was out there, and I've been following this through Farm Doc. It's not like it's taken a lot of time, but there's a lot of money that's going to come in to production agriculture, especially row crop agriculture. So let's see how ARC PLC is affected. All right, we'll start with the 25 crop. Okay, when you signed up in March, you signed up for ARC County. All right, even though the PLC reference price was raised. Again, 24 and 25 were the first time we've raised those reference prices. From 14 to 23, that reference price was $370 corn and $840 soybeans. So what ABBA does, all right, it changes the reference prices for PLC, an increase of 11%, and it changes the benchmark price. And if WASDE was right on December 9th, all right, and next September we come in at $4 weighted average cash, MYA, you're in the money. You're going to trigger ARC and PLC, but you get the higher of the two for the 25 crop. That is a change. I don't care what you signed up for last March. You get the higher of the two, okay? For soybeans, they increased that price by 19%. And you've never got a PLC on soybeans, and that program started in 2014. But you're in the money this year, all right, because ABBA increased the reference price and the benchmark price. Now, in the November 14th WASDE, they increased the price from 10 to 10.50, and we don't know. My gut says that's too high. And maybe we split the difference between $10 September report and 10.50 November report. But here's what I want you to realize. Between now and March 15th, you need to sign up for an ARC or PLC program by FSA number, by commodity crop, just like we've done since 21. And what I want you to recognize is the benchmark price is higher than the PLC price. And my bias is we're going ARC County for the 26 crop. I'm not telling you that. Gary Schnittke will have some sort of tool out here, and you can play what if games. But I am not waiting until March. I'm moving earlier than I've ever moved. And when FSA is ready, I'm signing up for 26. And I'm probably going for corn, definitely Ark County. For beans, probably Ark County. For wheat, I'm indifferent. Might stay in the PLC program. Remember, these payments are on base acres. This should be important to you. Am I going to get a payment? Yes, for the 25 crop in October of 26. Here's some other changes that are coming. All right, and hopefully you've read about this. Like I said, I got this off of Farm Doc in July. You just saw the prices are changing. So the benchmark prices are changing for Ark County. All right. And Ark County is probably the program you've been in since 2014, and I'm probably staying with that. All right. But the fact is that for the 25 crop receivable in October 26, you get the higher of the PLC or Ark County, regardless of what you signed up for. And I'll show you the comparison of that using the FAST tool, what if tool that Gary Schnittke's created. Now, what other changes? Well, beginning this winter, you're going to be signing up. And as soon as FSA is ready, I'm probably going to be emailing them and signing up. And in all likelihood, I'm going to sign up for Ark County, all corn base acres and all soybean base acres. The payment limits are going up, and this is immediate. This is for the new Farmer Bridge Assistant payments that you're going to be receiving hopefully in February and for sure by March. So that goes from 125 to 155. We're going to treat S Corps and LLCs. They each have multiple limits. And this is the one that changes crop insurance. Beginning in 2026 crop, PLC enrollment is no longer tied to the purchase of SCO. There's going to be a lot more interest in SCO in Ark County, and it's going to accelerate in 27. So SCO purchase is no longer limited, and that's important. There's one more major change that I think is coming, is we're going to have the potential to add base acres. The landowner signs that form, by the way, and I don't think FSA is going to be ready for this anytime soon. The decision will not impact existing base acres. And most of your base acres, all right, for corn were created in the 80s and soybeans in the late 90s. There was a slight chance to update the PLC yields in 2014. But if you're going to add base acres, it's going to have to reflect these years. And before you get excited about changing your base acres, most of these acres are going to go somewhere where they're planting different crops than corn and soybeans. Cotton gets preference to these 30 million acres. And so for the Corn Belt, the rule is, are you planting more acres than your existing base acres? And you might, well, yeah, I got 10 extra acres, or 20. I took out the brush and and cleared that ground. I just think that be patient, March, and see what's happening with these 30 million acres. I believe most of them will go to cotton in the south, southeast, and then they'll go to wheat base acres in the Dakotas and Kansas. And I just think it's probably not going to be a major issue. So with that, how much are you going to get? All right, this is me. This is Farm Doc. All right, and this is for your cash flow as you're putting a cash flow together for your 26 crop. So this is the 26 calendar year. Where will the money be coming from? And I'm not going to predict that you're going to trigger an indemnity payment for revenue protection. I'm not there. I don't know the weather. All right. I just don't think so. The first set of money that's coming is called FBA, and that's not Farmer Business Association. This is Farmer Bridge Assistance Program. Now, FarmDoc came out this week, all right, and they said, well, I think FBA looks a lot like the ECAP payment that we got. in March and April? I don't know that. I just saw this posted on AgWeb today that they just used the farm doc numbers. $46 per planted acre of corn. And so by tomorrow, if you did not report your planted acres to FSA, you need to notify them. You're not getting paid. If you didn't turn in your acres, you're not getting paid. All right. So when I see the $46 per acre corn, $25 per acre beans, again, these are planted acres of 25 that you're going to receive in late February or March. Next week, the week of December 22nd, USDA will be announcing these payments by crop, by dollar amount per acre. I don't know if those are true or not. My gut says soybeans were more impacted by tariffs than was corn, but I don't know how USDA is going to allocate the money. The weighted average between the two, again, we've got a 91. This issue of planted acres of corn is going to take a lot more. I mean, we planted over 98 million acres of corn and not even 82 million acres of soybeans. And so corn's going to grab a lot of the money. I just don't know if it's dollars per acre. So we'll all know together, probably Christmas. All right, this will be your Christmas present from USDA. Again, you don't sign up. You are patient. You wait for FSA to notify you. If it's like ECAP, they will go ahead and complete a form. It'll all be filled in, all right, and you sign it and date it and submit that to FSA. So be patient. All right, this is a terrible winter to be angry at the federal government and USDA and the Farm Service Agency. The next payment that I see coming, all right, is going to be for those that bought SCO for the 25 crop. Now, I don't know, unless there's some exceptions, maybe Southern Illinois, that there were some significant county yields that might trigger these payments. I haven't found that county yet in my travels. So SEO triggers at the 86% level. This is 25 crop. You had to buy it. So you're in the PLC program. Okay, that'll change this year. The one that I see is going to trigger, all right, is going to be ECO. Again, lower left-hand corner, you can see the legend box. I think ECO will probably trigger. Most every place I've traveled, it's somewhere between $10 and $35. And we won't get that payment until after the middle of June, and we know the final county yields. Final county yields are determined the SEO, the ECO, and the ARC county payments. The bigger payments are coming is going to be in October of 26 for the 25 crop. This is the PLC program. And you say, well, I signed up for ARC County. I don't get that. Well, it depends. If the PLC payment, all right, is larger than the ARC County payment, these will be determined the last few days of September and paid in October. And these are paid on base acres, not on planted acres. Again, only FBA is paid on planted acres. And SEO and ECO is this farm program, ARC PLC. So consistently, everywhere that I've trained since July, it appears as though the ARC County payment for corn and soybeans will be larger than the PLC payment. That's not always going to be true. All right, there's going to be some counties that are going to have such large yields that ARC County is not going to pay, but I'm setting you up for next year because you can see that ARC County is going to trigger larger payments, and literally those prices that we're using for PLC and ARC County are going to be pretty much the same. Stop. Caitlin, I'm ready. Fire away. What questions do you have?
Let's start with ARC and PLC, since that was kind of top of mind with what we were talking about. One of the questions was, there seems to be a lot of confidence in the ARC PLC payments in 2026. However, the variables used to determine the payment levels have not been set. How much variability do you believe could exist in the estimated payments? that many sources are predicting, and what should they predict for their operation?
I don't think that there's probably more than 20% difference in price. And if it's any change in price, is beans go down and probably have a more likelihood of triggering. The real issue here is PLC is not going to change very much. Ark County is going to change. And it's going to change when your final county yields are released the week of June 15th. All right. And again, you say, well, how does that affect Ark County? It's county yields. It's the actual revenue, all right, for the 25-26 marketing year. But since we don't know the county yields until the middle of June, we don't know the MYA price. So, I mean, yeah, maybe it's, 20 cents on beans, a nickel on corn for price. It's the county yield. It's a county yield issue. And that county yield's the one that's going to trigger the ECO payment, especially if you bought up at 90 or especially 95%. I think you really need to be in tune with your crop insurance agent and understanding that final county yield that comes from crop insurance data. That's why it's not released until June. And I'm just saying that, yeah, there's some variability. You're not going to know. But I use the Farm Doc Fast Tool ARC PLC What If. And you said, well, what county is that? Champaign County. When did you do that? Last night. And what did you use for price? $4 corn, $10.50 beans. So it's a moving target. All right. And it takes you about 5 minutes with that fast tool. All right. And I don't, again, get too fancy, but when I travel I'm in. All right. But it's not going to change. That PLC payment, is it's not going to change $5 an acre. But the Ark County payment could change depending on your county and the final county yield. And here in Iowa, we got the rust. And I think a lot of farmers are like, whoa, if you're in a rust county, you're probably going to trigger a larger payment because of lower county yields. Great question. Other questions?
Excellent. Well, the next one refers to base acres. Is it safe to assume that corn acres will often pay more than soybean base acres in Illinois, as has been the case in the past?
Absolutely. We figured that out in 2003, and it hasn't changed. Is when you updated the soybean base acres in 2003, you wanted to keep as much of your corn base as you could. Corn will always trigger larger payments than soybeans. And so I just don't see that changing. I don't see that changing, even with this, change in prices used for PLC or Ark County. Always keep your corn base. If you get a chance to update base acres, it's corn that you want to update to. Corn is king. Corn base acres will always pay more than soybean base acres. Good question. Anything else?
Absolutely. And this last one kind of goes all the way back to when we were talking about estimated profits for 25-26. What are your thoughts about the cost of inputs, specifically fertility? It seems like NP and K prices are so disconnected from the grain prices.
Yeah, and I won't disagree. I mean, if there's any cost that's going up, it's going to be fertilizer. But the reality is when Farm Doc put these estimated costs together in June and August, we didn't have sub $60 crude oil. So I think transportation costs, I think fuel costs are going to be lower. I think it's going to be fertilizer as the biggest challenge. And that's going to be the challenge that takes us to more bean acres. And so if you didn't buy anhydrous this fall and you say, well, it'll be cheaper in the spring, maybe. But the wetter the spring, the bigger problem we've got. And we're going to more bean acres. So I think that's a part of that, managing risk and managing revenue and managing costs, because some farmers just say, I just won't spend the money. And I think that was a mistake in the fall. And I think that'll be a mistake with crop insurance. I just won't spend as much money. Well, good luck, because the government's subsidizing most of your crop insurance decisions for the 26 crop. Anything else?
Definitely. I know I said that was the last one, but we've had a few more roll in.
Oh, good.
Someone just wanted to confirm the same county yield sources are utilized for both ECO, and ARC payment calculations. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. The exception will be, there's a few counties, they're probably in Southern Illinois, that don't have enough numbers. And sometimes they have to go in for our county program and they got to blend the county yield. All right, so that'll be reflected the week of June 15th, is we just don't have enough information. And so that's played out already in Iowa, and I've already heard about that. So yeah, there'll be a few counties, and they tend to be lower producing counties where they just don't have enough yield information. So that's the only difference that I've seen.
Yeah, makes sense. And as we roll into year end here, a lot of people are getting ready to put their 12/31 balance sheets together and turn those into us here at Farm Credit Illinois. How do you suggest accounting for some of these payments that are going to come in on the balance sheet? I know you've mentioned the Farm Doc tool. Is that a way you like to, or what's your recommendation?
I wouldn't put these payments onto the balance sheet. I'd wait and put them into my cash flow. And so maybe the balance sheet isn't as pretty because I didn't get account, my FBA payment, or, I don't get account my ARC County payment. Well, are those receivables? I think be consistent. If you've been filling out a, balance sheet for 20 years and you've never carried these government program payments as receivables, I probably wouldn't. But where they're going to really show up, they're going to really show up in the cash flow statement that you're putting together for the 26 crop. And I think just be consistent with the balance sheets. Don't try to cheat yourself, and I'm going to increase a net equity gain, and it's because the government's sending me all this money. Just work with your financial representative and be consistent. But no, cash flows are really going to get padded. Margins are not going to look as bad as you think they are for 26. Great questions.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. It's always tempting to throw it on there, whenever these payments are bigger than a lot of us have seen in many years, but
Yep.
Makes a lot of sense to put it in the cash flow.
No, let's do a better job of cash flow, because that's what's going to pay the bills. And I guess you're still going to want a pre-harvest market, and that's where I'm going right now. I'm going to talk about crop insurance. I'll talk about my marketing plan. We'll wrap us up. 15 minutes. All right, grab your snack. If you got to pee, tough luck. Suck it up, Buttercup. Here we go. The farm program is pretty much the same farm program that we've had. Now, what ABA did was it increased the MAL rates. And so if nobody's loaning you money, you can take your grain under loan, but they're not attractive as far as what you can get for payments. So these are national rates. They can vary slightly by county. But, soybeans moved from 620 to 682, and corn moved from 240. So again, last lender of last resort, FSA, could loan you money. They could do it now, but these are the 26 rates. So don't get used to borrowing from FSA unless it's direct money or beginning farmer money. Farm Service Agency, FSA staff is the youngest, least experienced staff in my lifetime. Be nice to them. You don't want to piss off FSA. You want to be nice to them. I mean, you're counting on an FBA, you're counting on an ARC PLC sign up. You might be borrowing direct, you might be young farmer loans. And so recognize that ARC PLC is not crop insurance. It is the farm program. It's under Title I commodities. The big one, in my opinion, is still crop insurance. All right. And you say, oh, no, I'm getting an FBA and I'm getting an ARC County. And so, I don't need crop insurance. You're wrong. All right. Crop insurance is keeping you farming in 26. It is understand that your agent you work with them earlier than you've ever worked with them. And again, I don't think we've got all of the data yet for SEO and ECO products, just like we haven't got the ARC PLC sign up. But stay focused. Control the crop controllables. Crop insurance is going to stay basically the same. The government's just going to pay a larger percent of your premium. Now, I think unit coverage is still important because the government's going to increase the subsidies for basic, optional, and enterprise units. And you decide. I mean, I'm not into this. I know what you should do. You know, basic is insuring land in a section by ownership, and optional is land in the section, and enterprise is you're insuring all the land together. So if you missed, you know, the last 26 years of crop insurance, you know, get up to speed. But here's what's coming at you. You can add on to your existing revenue protection these county-based endorsements. They're called shallow loss because that's exactly what they do. And if you didn't buy MP or MCO, great, because here come the subsidies, okay? Now, the subsidies that we have are going to increase, okay? Last year, ECO went to 65%, and it's going to 80%. ECO policies quadrupled across the Corn Belt in 25. So don't tell me that farmers aren't going to be buying ECO. Now they're going to look at buying SCO because SCO is no longer connected to the PLC program. They're disconnected. So I'm starting early with FSA, January. Then I'm starting early with my crop insurance agent. And my crop insurance agent's going to be pretty knowledgeable because they're on this webinar today. And they know how this works. They know that most farmers in the Midwest are taking RP, farm level coverage. And if you're at 80 or 85%, stay there. The government's going to pay more of your premium just because of the unit structure. And then SCO, which by the way is going to 90% coverage next year, is still at 86%. And ECO can be a trigger at 90 or 95%. And the only way that you can't buy SCO or ECO for the 26 crop is if you already bought the new product, MCO, or the old product, MP. Now, MCO and MP had to be purchased by September 30th. And I think in a year like this, it's an advantage. Now, the subsidy is going to attach to the MCO, but I can buy SCO and or ECO for the 26 crop. And because of the subsidies, I am checking into this. Now, I'm not going to be in front of my crop insurance agent probably until late January, early February. But this is what's known. This is ABBA money. All right. Is if you're an optional or if you're in enterprise units, all right, for the first time since 09 in enterprise units, the government's paying a larger percentage of the premium. And they're not sending you a 1099. It's a cost share program. But as you move to higher levels of coverage, all right, the government subsidizes less. And so I'm just sharing with you what ABBA did. It's changing these. So if you've got the same crop insurance product, all right, and the same level of coverage, and your approved APH didn't change much, your premiums are going down as long as the projected price, all right, hangs in there. For corn, last year was $4.70. Beans was $10.54. And I thought beans was going to be higher. And I think it will be, but that's the month of February. That's why the month of February is going to be like Illini basketball. This is when we play our best basketball. This is when all these are going to come into play. You're going to get your FBA. You're going to be meeting with your crop insurance agent. You're going to be signing up for PLC or ARC County by FSA farm number by commodity crop. And so I'm going to turn this into a marketing plan. This is why I get to do a lot of meetings in the winter. This is my marketing plan for 26. I shared this again when I was doing Farm Bureau meetings in Macomb and Galesburg and Oregon. I use 2 years. I don't wait. If I get a chance to sell, this happened to be June 3rd of 25 or 26, and here's my price objective for pre-harvest marketing, $4.70. If I can get December 26 corn above $4.70, I did in early June, I did in mid-November, all right, you've already passed on $4.70 twice, And I'm going to sell incrementally. And I'm going to sell new crop corn, hopefully, when the market's going up. 480, 490. I'm not saying that we're going there. All right. That topped us out 2 years ago. And again, 479 topped us out last year in February. But I think corn's very well supported. Fewer corn acres. And any sort of uncertainty about planting is going to give us a chance to pre-harvest market. For soybeans, I didn't get anything sold last summer. All right, the whole tariff issue played out, but boy, 11. If I could get 11, and I triggered that. I triggered that in Halloween when Trump was talking to Xi. And then I triggered that again, 11, 1120, 1140. I don't know if we'll get to 1160 with these acres that are coming. We need a drought. We need a drought soon. And if we don't get one in Brazil, we better have one in Argentina. But here's my marketing plan, and then I'll wrap up with questions. So type in that question box, these tough questions. This is Steve Johnson's marketing plan. All right, I'm working with my financial officer, and I'm putting together a cash flow, and I'm working on my marketing plan. And so here's mine. Worked great last year. All right, paid all the bills, met my cash flow. I've got some extra bushels left because I had large yields. I'm selling rallies, maybe 10% a year ahead. And then when I get into this winter, 15% incremental sales. That goal is 80% of my approved APH, not my APH, approved, trend adjusted. And so I'm using rallies in prices. And I got that rally in November. And I hope we get another rally that we can get up around 480. February would be nice, as that's our crop insurance projected price. And that'd guarantee me a larger revenue guarantee. But even if we don't get it in February, I'm thinking we probably get there, but it'll be April, May, or June. And then if we can get up around 490, I'd like to get close to 80% of my approved APH. And if we don't get there, then I use dates because I know the seasonality of December corn futures. You've seen me feature these. Corn peaks in April, May, June. And there you go. But I don't know that April, May, June is higher than a February rally or a March rally. And so whichever comes first, price or date. And by June 15th, by the way, that's a Monday, that's the same week that final 25 yields come out. I want to finish my pre-harvest marketing. And my lenders are going to be happy, happy, happy because I'm managing risk. Maybe not uncertainty, but I'm managing risk. And for soybeans, I didn't sell anything. I didn't get any summer sold, but boy, when that rally came after Halloween, all right, I hit it. 1120. Today, soybeans are trading at 1072, and I look smart. All right, I just focused. I'm controlling the controllables and not trying to outguess the weather, outguess the USDA, and outguess the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. I'm just focused on my operation. If we don't get to those prices and incremental sales, then I use dates. I use dates because soybeans, if they're going to peak in the spring, it's almost always May, June. Sometimes July, but we rarely see July. It's May, June. And I'm concerned we're going to go wet and we're going to plant more than 84 million acres of soybeans. So I'm going to move this winter. I'm going to be aggressive. You can see how aggressive I was a month ago. And so with that, there's those risk management sites. Again, I'm from ISU Extension, the Cyclone State, but I'd use FarmDoc. They're number one. In my mind, those guys are number one. I'm on FarmDoc daily. Most of the information on ABBA's been out there since July. And then I love that Farm Bill What If tool that Gary Schnittke's updated twice, once in August, and he's updated again November 4th. That's what I use to make those calculations. Again, I'm not going to get that PLC Ark County payment, the higher of the two. until October, but at least I know for my cash flow purposes of what it's going to be. And so then USDA Farm Service Agency, again, we haven't seen much from them other than the disaster program. Hopefully, when they are ready for ARC PLC enrollment, that they'll use their websites and you don't have to stand at the counter anymore. All right, is you are working electronically via phone or primarily email. And then lastly, I use the Illinois weather guys, Eric Snodgrass and Matt Reardon. So with that, I'm down to 3 minutes. And Caitlin, fire those questions at me.
We had so many early on that it's been a little bit quiet. So
I wore them out, didn't I?
You did. Well, and you just answered so many right there in the middle. So
you can take my screen away if you want.
Okay, I sure will.
And I was here the whole time. And we
could see you. You just couldn't see you.
We got no baubles. Was that cool? We got no baubles. I really like that. So this is what I do. I'm retired. I spent 27 years at the university. I retired in 21, not 01. All right. There's a lot of farmers that wished I had retired in 01, but then I would have missed teaching the last 4 farm programs. So I was instrumental at Iowa State for the 2, 8, 14, and 18 Farm Bill. I'm not sure we get a Farm Bill in 25. I think we get ABBA that rocks the commodity title, ARC PLC, and it rocks crop insurance, the crop insurance title 10. So upgrade, your understanding of all these changes that are coming. I want to knock off ARC PLC as soon as FSA is ready. I'll do it electronically. They've got a cool little Dropbox that's my signature, and I am all going ARC County. I believe in all corn base acres, and with 80% confidence, I'm probably going ARC County on bean base acres. Wheat, I'm probably leaning back towards PLC. So if you've still got wheat base. And then I'm meeting with my crop insurance agent way before the first week of March. Again, we don't know the projected prices till the end of February. We don't know what your premium's going to do, but I'm asking the tough questions about SCO and about ECO and adding those. For sure, ECO. I just, when your neighbors are getting an ECO 95% trigger in June, you're going to go, oh, what did I have to do? Well, you had to buy ECO for the 25 crop. Talk about a sense of entitlement. Your neighbors took ECO and you didn't. And so I like adding SCO and ECO, not replacing revenue protection, very complementary. Any other questions that you might have of me? I'll be in Illinois. I'll be in Galesburg on January 15th. That'll be Midwest One Bank. And then I'll be in Carthage on February 3rd. That will be Fortress Bank. So I'm around. Just ask the bank, hey, we heard Steve Johnson's coming to town and you're buying me lunch. So again, Midwest One Bank, Galesburg, 15th of January, and Fortress Bank in Carthage on February 3rd. Those are midday programs with a lunch.
Well, we've sure appreciated having you here, Steve. I know our agents have sure been studying up this winter, going over all of these crop insurance changes so that they can help our members. We've got a lot of our own meetings coming up too. We've got a lot of the local branches have crop talk meetings where they'll be going over a lot of these crop insurance changes. So we look to see a lot of you there, as well as just a slew of learning programs coming up. So again, thank you so much for being here with us, Steve. We appreciate your knowledge and wisdom over all these programs and all the changes that we look forward to and kind of how to set ourselves up best for the coming year. So thanks again. And just to close out, a couple quick updates. We've got a quick survey that will pop up when you close out of this program. If you don't mind answering a few questions, it just really helps us to make sure we're bringing you the information that you want to see in these Ag Minded Hour webinars. So be sure to fill that out. And then, like I mentioned, there's a lot of programs coming up over the next month or two. So be sure to go to farmcreditil.com/learning to check out what's coming up next. Our very next program is estate planning, but there are so many more throughout the month. So thank you all for being with us today, and we hope to see you next time.
Merry Christmas, everyone.